Thank you again. This is Godfrey Mayende. This is a continuation of our previous illustration of Microsoft Access. And now today we are going to look at how to create tables in Access. As you see, we created our Microsoft Access database, which we call the supermarket. And you know that we had put in place 3 tables that we were supposed to create: the product table, the transaction table, and the supplier table. If from this point you don't remember it, you can go back and see it from the previous video, and you know exactly the different tables that are required. So we are going to start by creating tables: the product table, transaction table, and the supplier table. And in Access, as you see, you can click on create. Create is the one that gives you can create tables, you can go to queries, you can create forms, you can create reports. And here in reports we shall use report wizard, in forms we shall use form wizard, in queries we shall use query design, and in tables we shall use the table design. So if you are going to create, after you have clicked on this create, so you want to create a table. So we are going to create a table of product. So you click on table design. Table design will open this window, and here you can be able to say product is product ID, because that's what we have. And what's the data type? Maybe it's going to be text. In Access, earlier versions of Access, it just puts the word text, and here it can put short text in a higher versions of Access. But we also need to say what is the data, the field size. Maybe here we shall just put 20 as the field size for this particular one. And usually description, which is an optional thing, helps you to understand. Maybe later on, 20 years after you have designed the database, you don't know the short forms of product ID, what it means. Here you can go ahead and write product identification. Yeah, but this one usually is optional, and in exam many times people don't bother with it. Then the next one is the product name, and it's also text, and we shall say this is at 50. And then we come here and say the unit price. The unit price is currency. You go to data type and look for currency. And then the stock is another field. Stock. The data type is number. And then after that, you can save this work. You can either, there are 3 ways in which you can save. You can go to file and click on save, or you can go to save, a shortcut for saving, which is here, or you can right click on this table you have created and click on save. So I will use this one, save, and then I put the name product. So the product table, I click OK. It is asking me, this is very important for you to note, although a primary key isn't required, it's highly recommended. A table must have a primary key for you to define a relationship between this table and other tables in database. For sure, you need a primary key. So do you want to create a primary key? If you say yes, it is going to automatically create for you another field. But you can cancel this out and just make a primary key for yourself. So to make this a primary key, you click on the field where you want it to be a primary key and click on this tab. Sometimes you can find when it's not there, but the design view is there. You click on design again and it will be able to allow you to do that. So the key now appears here. This has become primary key. So I can go back and save my work, code product, and click on save. When I click on save, it appears here. But remember that when we started Access initially, this table thing came table 1. We can just, if you're using the this version, you can click on this X and it closes, or you can right click on it and you click on close. So you close this one with table 1. So you already have product table. Now we are going to create transaction table. The transaction table, we are going to also click on create as usual. You remember, you go to table design, and we are going to say transaction transaction ID. The data type is that, and we are going to use 20 field size, and then we shall have trans date. So what is the data type for trans date? You go down here, it will be date time because it's transaction date. And remember that things of date and the currency and numbers, I'm not changing anything down here. I'm only changing it when I come field sizes on text. Then quantity is basically numbers. You can guess it's numbers. And then product ID. Remember, product ID was short text, and it was with a field size of that. And then the sub ID is text, and also we shall put 20. We haven't created yet the table of suppliers and where the supplier ID is. Once that is done, you make this primary key. You remember, you click on the key, click on that field, and then click on the key. You can also remove if you have made a mistake. For example, you may click here and you press key. You have made a mistake. It is on quantity, but it's not where it's supposed to be. You remove quantity by clicking back there. Then you go and click on transaction ID. Click on primary key. So now here we have, you can see that we have made transaction ID primary key. So you can right click that, save, and call this transaction. And once you have made the transaction table, then you are now going to create another table which is called the supplier. The supplier table, you go to create, and you go to table design, and the supplier ID will give you the supplier ID, and then the sub F name, and then the surname, and then we have the sub address. The sub address, and the sub address is also text. Everything here is text with that. And then you can go and make supplier ID primary key by right clicking on it, make it primary key, because that's another way. You can go here, or you can just right click, and then you right click, save this, and call it supplier, and you click on save. So we have now created the 3 tables. We have created the product table, we have created the supplier table, we have created the transaction table. So that's very important for us to know how to create these tables. Now, once the tables have been created, then you need to create a relationship between these tables. And to make a relationship between the tables, you click on relationship, and then you can add. You can click on the second one, add, click on transaction, and add. So you can close this up. You have all these in play. So you can move these around the way you want. But remember, if you're going to create the relationship and enforce integrity, these tables must not be here. So you can close these ones, all of them, and remain with that. So you drag the product key from the product table to the product key in the transaction table, and click on enforce integrity, create. Also click on supplier, drag to supplier ID, click on enforce integrity. Here you can see supplier ID against supplier ID, but within different tables, and then you click create. So here you have your table there, and you can just click on save so that is saved. It's very important. Now once that is that, so what we have done, we have created a table, the 3 tables, and we have also created a relationship these 3 tables, and we shall end there and we shall continue from there in the next set. Thank you very much.